They walked me out in the pouring rain like I was some kind of criminal. Security on both sides, one of them gripping my arm just tight enough to let me know I had no say in this. My box, my actual box, was sagging, wet at the bottom, files sticking to the inside. Half my stuff was already soaked before we even hit the back door, and through the break room window, I saw them. Champagne flutes in the air, balloons taped to the ceiling, a banner I hadn't noticed earlier, "Congrats, Brielle!" curling at the corners. She was front and center, teeth gleaming, lipstick perfect, holding a glass like she just cured cancer. All around her were people I'd worked beside for years, clapping, laughing, pretending they hadn't just watched the system I built get handed over to someone who'd never written a single line of code. And Elton. Of course he was there. My boss for 3 years, maybe more, smirking like the weasel he was, raising his glass to her like she earned a damn thing. As I passed under the window, he caught my eye, held up his glass, real subtle mouthed the words, "He'll fix your mess? Fix my mess?" I stopped walking right there. Security gave me a nudge, but I didn't move. I looked up, right at him, rain coming down hard on my face, shirt clinging to my back. My hands clenched the edge of that useless sagging box. That system, my system, was clean, tight. Every protocol, every override, every emergency trigger was handcrafted, optimized. It could reroute ambulance traffic in under 10 seconds. We'd tested it during the downtown fire response. Mayor's office said it was going to save lives. And now, just like that, they tossed me. New direction, they said. Reorganization initiative. All that corporate BS. HR didn't even look me in the eye. 30 minutes of stiff language and printed packets. Then they called security. Like I'd go rogue or something. I didn't say a word. Not when they escorted me through the main floor. Not when the intern looked away as I passed her desk. Not even when the box started falling apart in my arms. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I just kept walking, rain soaking through my sneakers, through my jeans, past the lot where I'd parked every day for 3 years, past the sign that still had my name on the building's innovation patent, past the memories of sleep-deprived nights and back-to-back weekends trying to make the city safer. I threw the box in the bed of my truck. Papers flew everywhere. Let 'em. Let the whole thing rot in the rain. I slammed the door, peeled out of that parking lot, and didn't look back. I took the first left out of their lot and gunned it through a yellow light, tires slipping under me. The rain came down like punishment. My wipers squeaked like they were begging to be put out of their misery, barely keeping the blur off my windshield. I could barely see 2 car lengths ahead, but I didn't care. Let it pour. Let the whole city flood. I pulled up to my building. The apartment was exactly how I'd left it that morning. Dark, cold, hollow. I kicked the door shut behind me, water pooling off my jacket onto the hardwood. No one waiting, no dinner. Just silence and a busted ceiling fan, clicking like a metronome set to slow decay. I didn't turn the lights on. Just towed off my soaked sneakers, peeled off my wet clothes, and grabbed a dry hoodie from the back of the couch. I stood there for a while, dripping in the middle of my own living room like I didn't belong there either. 6 months ago, I was on the front page of the local press. The mayor herself had toured our floor, asked questions, took photos with her hand on my shoulder like I was some damn prodigy. They said my system could cut emergency response times by 30%. Said it would make our city the model for every metro in the country. I didn't sleep more than 4 hours a night that whole quarter. Didn't take Christmas off. Spent New Year's Eve in the server room because one subroutine flagged a false alarm, and I couldn't let it ride. I optimized that logic flow like it was brain surgery, built it piece by piece, routing decisions, power failure contingencies, priority overrides, even weather-adaptive traffic rerouting. My system didn't just run, it thought. And now they handed it to her, Brielle. She'd been circling for months, asking questions like she understood anything, looking at my models like they were puzzles she could solve by flipping a few variables. Never built anything, never tested a single node. But she had clean heels and shiny folders and talked like a TED Talk with teeth. I cracked a beer. Warm, didn't care. Before I knew it, I was out on the balcony in that same hoodie, the rain lighter now, but still steady. The city was lit up, buzzing, pulsing, and I could see the flow from where I stood. I could feel it. That intersection on 5th was already backing up. Too many cars triggering the pressure sensor without dynamic reroute logic. I'd set the failsafe to redirect east after 7 car stack. Without the override, that road would choke in under 20 minutes. I took another sip, leaned against the railing. I could almost hear the honking 2 blocks away. They thought they could just hand it off. Plug in someone new. Swap out the person who built the bones of it for someone who'd never written more than a pitch deck. Let them try. I stayed on that balcony until the beer was gone and the bottle sweated in my hand. Just me, damp sleeves, and a city already stumbling over itself. They thought they could erase me in 30 minutes and a toast. But this city still moved because of me, and I knew exactly how fast it could fall apart without me. I woke up on the couch with a stiff neck and the same hoodie still on. The beer bottle was still on the balcony railing, untouched since last night. Condensation dried to a film. My phone was face down on the floor, buzzing like it had something important to say. It didn't. Just another scam text and an app update I didn't ask for. I picked it up, tossed it on the kitchen counter, and stood there in the half-dark, listening to the hum of the fridge and the soft tap of rain against the balcony door. That fridge had a louder motor than it should, but I'd never bothered to replace it. Kinda like the noise, honestly. It reminded me I wasn't dead. The next 2 days blurred together. That was it. No emails, no texts. No, we made a mistake. Just the silence of people pretending they had it under control, until the blinking started. At first I didn't recognize the number, just some unknown 347 with no voicemail. Then another, same prefix. I figured it was a burner, some intern too scared to use their work phone. But by the afternoon, it was her name, Brielle. First call came in around 4. I let it ring out. Second one hit while I was heating leftover pizza. Phone buzzed right off the counter. By 8, it was 5 calls, then 9. By midnight, I counted 19, all from her. No voicemail, no text. Just her name lighting up again and again like a slot machine, spinning out the same losing symbol. I knew exactly what was happening. Knew it before I even checked the traffic camera feeds online. You can see the signs without needing admin access. Red grid stacking on surface streets, bus delays hitting 30 minutes, public complaints rising like floodwater. The system was failing. Because here's what none of them understood. It wasn't just code. You can teach someone the steps, sure, but instinct, pattern memory, gut check rerouting during surge hours, that's not in the docs. That's experience. That's knowing the city like you know your own heartbeat. Brielle never had it. She had degrees, reports, nice shoes, clean presentations, but no grit, no street sense, no clue what it felt like when an entire neighborhood loses connectivity and emergency vehicles start improvising. She thought theory could replace instinct. Let her find out. I didn't answer a single call, just watched the missed number count climb like a scoreboard. I cracked open a cold one, sat in the kitchen with my feet up, and smiled for the first time in 2 days. She was drowning, and I wasn't throwing a rope. Let them sweat. Let the whole office scramble through my modules trying to decode a language they never bothered to learn. This is what happens when you think innovation is just a resume bullet. You get buried in it. And me? I had nowhere to be, nothing to fix, no one to answer to. I turned off the phone, finished my beer, and slept like a baby. The next time my phone buzzed, it was nearly noon, and I'd just finished the last slice of cold pizza straight from the box. Iris. The one junior engineer they hadn't kicked to the curb when they pushed me out. Smart kid, nervous energy, always scribbling notes like she was trying to learn by osmosis. I liked her. I almost didn't pick up, but something in my gut said this wasn't another ego call. I hit answer. Yeah, it's falling apart. She didn't even say hello. Her voice was cracked like she hadn't slept. Northside's grid is locked. Nothing's moving. EMS had to call choppers for 2 separate cardiac events. They're bypassing every ground route. I leaned against the kitchen counter, heart rate ticking up. What the hell is Brielle doing? She's pulling textbook models from some systems engineering blog. Swapped out 2 of your algorithms this morning with a crowd-based variant that was never tested. It's chaos. I didn't say anything for a beat. I just stared out the window. Clouds were thick, sky low like it wanted to press down on the whole city. Iris, I said finally, I don't work there anymore. I know. Then let them deal with the fallout. They wanted me gone. They got what they wanted. There was silence on the line, then a soft, tired voice. Real people are suffering. That one hit different. Not because she was trying to guilt trip me, but because I knew she meant it. I could hear it in her voice. The same frustration I used to feel when a bad traffic policy turned into a fatal delay. The same tension I carried in my spine every time a routine call turned into a tragedy, because someone didn't get through fast enough. I hung up without another word, grabbed my jacket, left the phone on the counter. I didn't know where I was going exactly, so I just started walking. Out the front door, down the block, into the pulse of the city that used to beat in rhythm with my code. By the time I hit 7th, I could already see the cracks. Cars backed up half a mile. Nobody moving. Horns blaring non-stop. People crossing in between gridlocked bumpers, throwing up their hands, shouting at nothing. A couple in business clothes standing in the median, drenched and stranded. On 11th, I watched an ambulance try to cut through traffic. Sirens screaming, lights flashing. But no one had room to move. They just sat there, stuck, boxed in by outdated logic flows that didn't adapt on the fly like mine did. I stood there and watched that ambulance waste 6 minutes just trying to get off the block. Everywhere I looked, it was failure, unnecessary grid tension, loopbacks that should have rerouted, block-level congestion that my system used to dissolve in seconds now sitting there like a dead limb. I passed a digital traffic sign blinking error codes. I recognized them. Faulty route cascade. That bug only triggered when someone bypassed 3 linked priority protocols. Protocols I personally hard-coded for emergency load balance. Textbook models. Idiots. I kept walking, no destination. Just watching the bones of what I built get twisted out of shape by people who thought they could control something they didn't even understand. This wasn't just a mess anymore. This was risk. This was damage. This was people trapped in a machine that used to keep them safe. And yeah, part of me wanted to let it burn. Let them learn the hard way. But another part of me, the builder, the guy who gave a damn, knew I couldn't ignore it forever. I got maybe 4 hours of sleep after walking half the city. Woke up with my back aching, still wearing jeans, and the same problem gnawing at the edges of my brain. Then came the knock. Not the casual kind. The kind that says, "I know you're in there." I dragged myself to the door, cracked it just enough to see who it was. Elton, tie half undone, shirt wrinkled, eyes red-rimmed and sunken, like he hadn't seen a bed in 2 days. He smelled like stale coffee and bad decisions. "Can we talk?" he asked. I didn't open the door any further, just leaned on it. "We're talking now." He gave a weak laugh, rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I'll be straight with you. That'll be a first." He flinched but kept going. "The system's struggling. We're dealing with a few unexpected technical challenges." I raised an eyebrow. "Technical challenges? Nothing we can't handle, of course. But the board thought, well, we were hoping, you might be open to consulting. Temporarily. High comp. Triple, actually." I just stared at him. Triple. That was his move? "You marched me out of there like a thief," I said. "While you toasted to the woman who gutted my system. That wasn't personal." "No, it was pathetic," I snapped. "You played politics, and now you're drowning in the result." His jaw tensed. "Don't let pride cost you everything. We're offering a path back in." I crossed my arms. "You're not offering jack. You're panicking. The city's bleeding out in traffic gridlock, and your genius hire is in over her head." He glanced down the hall like someone might be listening, then leaned in. "If you don't help us, we'll be forced to inform potential partners about your refusal to cooperate. That kind of thing doesn't look good for future contracts." I laughed, loud. "You gonna tell them you fired the only guy who actually understood the architecture? Be my guest. I'm sure that'll make you look real sharp." He straightened up, adjusted his tie like it mattered. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, you already made it hard when you walked me out with security while Brielle held a champagne flute. You want me now? Sorry, I'm all out of goodwill." He stood there for another second, like maybe he had one more card to play. He didn't. I gave him one final look. "Shut the door on your way out." He didn't say another word, just turned, stiff and silent, and walked down the hallway like a man who'd just been mugged in broad daylight. I watched him through the peephole until he was gone, then locked the deadbolt. The air in the apartment felt different, heavier, but in a way that settled right. Because for the first time since they fired me, I wasn't the one chasing. I had the upper hand now, and they knew it. About 10 minutes after Elton left, I got the text. "Mayor Vivian Halston, Neutral Cafe, 11 a.m., 3 words under that. For the city." I stared at it for a long minute, then tossed the phone on the counter and went to take a real shower. Hot water, finally. First decent shave in days. I didn't dress up, but I didn't show up looking like I'd been sleeping in a truck bed either. The cafe was off a side street near City Hall. Quiet, local, one of those places with mismatched mugs and chalkboard menus. She was already there when I walked in. Alone, no aides, no press. Just her, a coffee cup, and the look of someone carrying the weight of a crumbling system on her back. She saw me, nodded once. I sat down across from her. "I was told you moved on," she said. I looked her straight in the eye. "I was fired," she exhaled, like that confirmed something she already knew but didn't want to believe. "I don't care what happened in that office," she said. "All I care about is this city, and it's breaking." "Yeah," I said. "I've seen it. I've had complaints from emergency services, sanitation, transit, even public schools. It's all bottlenecked. Nothing moves without your system working the way it was built." I waited. Let her keep going. "They said Brielle was the future, that she could make it more scalable. But now, every department is screaming, and I'm the one holding the bag." I stirred the coffee the server dropped off for me. Didn't drink it. She looked at me, hands clasped on the table. "I want you back, not for them. Not for the department, for the city." That hit different coming from her. But I didn't say yes, not right away. "You don't get to ask me back like it's a favor," I said. "If I return, it's on my terms, which are full control, no more approval chains, no more middlemen. I build it my way, and no one touches it without going through me." She nodded slowly. "Go on. My name goes on everything. Public-facing, code base, infrastructure contracts. I get credit for what I built. Fine. I pick my own team. No bureaucrats, no washed-up project managers, no suck-ups trying to get promoted off my work. I want Iris, and anyone else I trust." She didn't flinch. "Anything else?" "Yeah, I report directly to you. No one else?" That one gave her pause. Just a second. Then she leaned back, crossed her arms. "You've thought this through." "I never stopped thinking," I said. She gave the smallest smile, not joy, more like relief with a hint of regret. "You know this'll make waves." "Good," I said. "Some people need to get washed out." She picked up her coffee, took a long sip, then stood. "Send me the list of names," she said. "You're reinstated." As of now, I didn't stand right away. I watched her walk out, the door jingling behind her, coat fluttering in the wind. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Iris 2 words. "We're back." I hadn't even finished texting Iris when the call came in. Brielle. I let it ring once before picking up. Her voice came tight and fast. "We need to talk." I let the silence hang, not out of strategy. I just wanted to hear her squirm for a second. She filled the gap herself. "You've been sabotaging it, haven't you?" I laughed, quick and sharp. "You think I've got time to mess with your mess? That system was already wrecked the second you touched it. You don't have to be smug. You don't have to be clueless, but here we are." Another pause. She lowered her voice like someone might be listening. "I need your help." There it was. "Tomorrow," I said. "Public library, back meeting room, 9 a.m. That's no phones, no laptops, just you and a pen. If you want help, come ready to listen." I hung up. Next morning, I got there early and picked a spot by the window, tucked behind a pillar, the kind of place where you could talk without being heard. She walked in at 9 on the dot, hair pulled back, blazer wrinkled, no makeup, bags under her eyes deep enough to carry guilt. She sat across from me and pulled a yellow notepad out of her bag, like she was bracing for a beating. "I was wrong about the assumptions," she said before I even asked. "The model doesn't adapt to real-time spikes. We tried pulling traffic data from public APIs to compensate. That was your first mistake," I cut in. "Public APIs have a lag. You didn't build for live decisioning. You built a static forecast tool." She started writing. "You overloaded Route C by treating it like a backbone," she went on. "Didn't realize it was designed as a bypass corridor. Because you didn't check the priority weighting." She nodded. "The reroute logic collapsed under 10% over expected volume. Because your fancy prediction models don't matter when a school bus flips or a protest blocks an exit. This system isn't academic. It's reaction-based. It needs to flex." She didn't say anything to that, just kept writing, line after line. I leaned forward. "Let me guess. You thought the system was a set of formulas, that it ran on logic." She glanced up. "Doesn't it? It runs on instincts disguised as logic. I taught it to think like the city thinks, which street people avoid when it rains, which lights get ignored during a panic, where jaywalkers force auto-brake triggers. That's not math. That's muscle memory." Her shoulders slumped. "I thought I could fix it. You can't fix what you don't understand." She nodded again, smaller this time. I stood, grabbed my folder. "I'm rebuilding it my way. Under the mayor, your team's done." She didn't argue, just sat there with her pen frozen mid-word, blinking fast like she wasn't ready to admit she'd lost. Too late. I left her there in that chair, surrounded by shelves of knowledge she never actually used, while I walked out with the only thing that mattered: control. I left the library with zero doubt about who held the reins now, and I wanted them to feel it. So I showed up early the next morning, 15 minutes before the board meeting, not to talk, just to watch. The receptionist gave me a nervous double take as I walked through the glass doors like I owned the place. I didn't stop, didn't need to. I knew exactly where I was going. Top floor, executive boardroom, long glass wall. I stood just outside the line of sight and watched through the frosted edge. Brielle was already inside, pale, jittery, paper clutched in one hand, water bottle in the other. Elton sat at the far end, pretending not to sweat, but his posture gave him away, stiff, like someone trying too hard not to look like a liar. I waited. Halfway through the meeting, I checked my watch, 10:19 a.m. Brielle stood up. Her voice wasn't loud, but you could tell she meant every word. I couldn't hear it all, but I caught pieces. Misrepresented deliverables. System tampering under supervision. Faulty metrics pushed through by Elton for board approval. The room shifted. Eyes turned. Someone stood up, probably legal. Elton tried to interrupt. She cut him off with a printed timeline. Boom. There it was. The flip. 10 minutes later, the door cracked open and an assistant poked her head out. "They're ready for you." I nodded once, adjusted my cuffs, and walked in, calm, sharp. Clean blazer, no tie, steady steps. 10 suits sat around that glossy table, faces stiff, eyes calculating. I didn't sit. At 10:04 this morning, I said, I signed a contract with the mayor's office. Direct hire. I'll be restoring and managing the city's traffic infrastructure under a new division. I let it land before I continued. Effective immediately. All previous versions of my system in your possession are revoked. Unauthorized access will be flagged as breach of contract under municipal code. Elton started to speak, but I held up a hand. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm not here for your blessing. You made your choice the day you walked me out and toasted with champagne, while the platform crumbled under your own arrogance. One of the board members shifted in his chair. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying, I replied, you're out. That's when the door opened behind me. Mayor Vivian walked in without a word, heels sharp on the tile, a manila folder under her arm. She nodded once, subtle, deliberate, like a mic drop without the noise. I turned back to the table. I'll be hiring my own team, starting with Iris, and anyone else who still knows what integrity looks like. No one spoke, not one person. I scanned the room, made eye contact with every suit who sat in on that joke of a celebration the day they canned me. Then I gave a half smile, not smug, just finished. This isn't a comeback, it's a correction. I turned and walked out, Mayor Vivian behind me, leaving them with their mouths shut and their futures hanging. By the time we hit the ground running, I already had Iris in the command chair next to mine, and 2 more engineers I trusted filling out the skeleton crew. No onboarding, no fluff. We knew what we were doing. I walked into the data center, took one look at the wreckage they had left behind, and started rebuilding from zero. First priority, stabilize flow. I pulled the backups from the sandbox I kept on a personal drive. Untouched, perfect, mine. We reactivated the real-time adaptive loop within 6 hours. Bypass corridors re-engaged, signal sync corrected, fail-safes reset. Within 2 days, the grid responded like it remembered who it belonged to. Traffic flow flattened. Congestion dropped 23%. Average EMS response shaved down to under 5 minutes. The city started breathing again. On the 3rd morning, Mayor Vivian held a press conference on the steps of City Hall. Cameras flashing, reporters shouting over each other, and her in that clean gray blazer with the seal pinned to her chest. A pioneering adaptive system, she said, designed by our own municipal consultant, custom tailored to our city's infrastructure and needs. We are proud to bring this level of innovation home. She said my name twice, full name, once at the start, once at the end. Let them hear it. That afternoon, my inbox caught fire. Tech companies, transportation boards from other cities, a university in Boston offering to fund a research lab in my name, a private firm from Austin trying to schedule a meeting before the end of the week. They all wanted a piece of it. I didn't answer a single one. I wasn't interested in selling, not yet. I had work to do. We expanded the team to 8, all hand-picked. No dead weight, no politics, just sharp minds, steady hands, and 0 egos. The new division didn't sit under any old banner. We operated direct to mayor, small, quiet, effective. Every morning started with field data, not meetings. Every night ended with a pulse check from dispatchers and city services. It wasn't just code anymore. It was a nervous system, and while we ran the city, Elton's company bled out. The moment the contract pulled, their bottom line tanked. It was their biggest revenue stream by far. The board didn't even fight it. After the fiasco, they knew they didn't have a leg to stand on. 3 weeks later, their downtown office closed. Rumor was, layoffs hit hard. Brielle, gone. Quietly removed. Scrubbed from the site. Elton, still trying to spin the collapse as strategic reallocation. Nobody bought it. 1 month later, I took a different route to City Hall. Didn't plan it, just walked where my feet went. Coffee in one hand, badge clipped to my jacket. Sun finally cutting through the gray for once. I turned the corner, and there it was. Their building. Same tinted glass, same corporate logo above the entrance, but the energy was gone. Lights low, lobby half lit like they didn't bother replacing dead bulbs. Through the window, I saw moving boxes stacked near the front desk. A chair on its side, desks stripped bare, monitors missing. Even the fern in the corner looked half dead. Then I saw him, Elton, standing just inside the entrance, arms crossed, face pale. His tie was gone, sleeves rolled, hair flat and thinning. Not angry, not smug, just hollow. Like he finally realized the building was just walls without the engine that kept it running. He looked up, our eyes locked. He didn't nod, he didn't speak. Neither did I. I didn't owe him anything. Not pity, not anger, not satisfaction. He had to stand there and watch it all collapse. Not because I took anything from him, but because he gambled against the wrong guy and lost. I gave a small nod, not for him, for the closure. Then I kept walking. City Hall was just a block away. Tall glass windows catching the light. Front doors open to the morning air. Inside, I knew what waited. My team, my work, real purpose. People who move for progress, not position. I pushed the door open and walked through without breaking stride. Because revenge isn't always loud.